Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Jigsaw discussion video. I have with me today a huge Saw fan. I just started talking with him. I want everyone to give a warm welcome to Jacob Walton. And before you say hello, man, before I give it off to you, I want everyone to pause the video right now, go down to the description section below and hit that link to go check out Jacob's review channel or his movie review site and everything. I want everyone to go check that out because this guy has some really awesome insight. Not only a huge fan of Saw, but also a movie buff like myself. So if you like that stuff, please make sure to go check it out. But man, what is up? Say hello to everyone listening. And what are we talking about today?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed listening to your Saw videos in the past couple of months, as well as some of your Dragon Ball Z videos as well. So it's been fun, coming in and check it out. So feel a plug for you. You're doing a good job, man. For those who don't know me, my name is Jacob Walton. I am a Saw fan. I actually started watching Saw back in 2006, and like you, I am a very diehard fan. Or I would always, every time I would go to movie theater, see in a theater, I would check out the DVDs, and every time the DVDs come on, I'd be listening to those commentary tracks, watch those behind-the-scenes videos. So I am a huge diehard fan. I was on House of Jigsaw for a while. I was on Official Saw page. And it's really great to talk with people and fans of the community of Saw. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking forward to talking about our next topic of this video.
Definitely, man. And just before we go on, honestly, I remember those days back in the House of Jigsaw days. Those were really awesome. Back in the old internet days where we had to just, all we had was each other, man. We were sharing thoughts and opinions and theories. And you know, guys, if you remember those days, if you were around back in those days, I want everyone to go into the comment section below and tell us your best memory, best theory, best time discussing what was going on back then, because basically we were on there too, and we probably understand exactly where you're coming from. So with that being said, we're going to be talking about something you came to me with, and I thought this was such an awesome theory, awesome idea for a discussion, man, when it comes to Jigsaw. And basically you were like, hey, how about we talk about all the people playing the cops and basically what their role or something is going to be in this movie. And because this was your idea, I just want to kind of throw it over to you and get your thoughts and opinions, and maybe I'll just kind of bat off of you and we'll just go from there. So with that being said, why don't you just get us started here, man?
All right, well, thank you. First of all, yes, let's go ahead and talk about the cops in these films. And one of the things that's a big drive in every Saw film, there is always those protagonists involved trying to stop the Jigsaw killers. Like we had Saw 1 with Detective Tapp and Detective Singh. We had Saw 2, which started off as Eric Matthews, Rigg, and Detective Carey. And it was pretty fascinating that how we were able to go for 3 films. We were able to revolve around those 3 protagonists from Saw 2, 3, and 4. And then, of course, Saw 5, we had Scott Patterson as Detective Strong for Saw 5. Mm-hmm. And then Saw 6, we had Detective Erickson, as well as Agent Perez from Saw 6. And then Saw 3D, we had
Matt Gibson.
Rod and Matt Gibson, which Gibson is what he is. Did you like that character by any chance?
I didn't. I hate that character. So as much as I have, like we were talking before we actually started recording, as much as I have gotten myself to actually like Saw 3D, his character is just the worst. I mean, just so pigeonholed in there just to be a placeholder for everything going on in that film. And it made me mad because they had Detective Fisk from Saw 4 and 5, and they had a character to fill that hole.
Yeah, it made sense too working with Hoffman, but then they try to go into different direction with him. And to be fair, Chad Donnell looked like he was having fun on set. So if you're having fun on set, I can't blame him for the performance. Exactly. But the Gibson performance is what it is. But no, let's go ahead and talk about the people who are the men in blue, as we say in this film. Basically, if you pay attention to the trailers, there are 4 people that I have accounted for, and there may be more based on the trailer if we haven't seen in the film. But there are 4 cast members that we spotted that are the cops in this film that it looks like they're going to be our protagonists for the film. Let's talk about each of these actors up here. There are 4 I'm going to mention today. Let's start with our first actor choice. We're going to start with Matt Passmore. So what are you familiar with Matt Passmore as an actor? Are you familiar with him?
Honestly, there's a lot of these people that I'm not necessarily familiar with at all. I knew from the fact that, when he was first officially announced, I looked on, he was apparently on the Lethal Weapon show that they started airing this past year. and I never really watched it. I don't think he's even on there very much, but honestly, I don't necessarily know much about him. Most of the people on these movies to begin with, I don't know a whole lot about. There's some people from time to time, like Shawnee Smith was someone who was in like the Blob remake, and you knew about her from time to time, but at the same time, it's like not necessarily big, not necessarily well known. Of course, you also have the Wahlberg brother there who played Eric Matthews in the original films. Like you knew about those people, but they weren't necessarily big name stars. I don't know anyone, just to preface, I don't know anyone who's been in who are these people that we're going to be talking about. I've never really seen them act before, but I'm really excited to see what they bring to their roles.
Okay, well, let's talk about Matt Passmore first. Now, for those who don't know who he is, his first role in the film was, unfortunately, Son of the Mask, which, have you seen that?
Yes. Oh my god, if he wasn't...
not a good thing to add to your resume, Son of the Mask. So, but, yeah, if you watch the Nostalgia Critics video on that, you'll get the idea. So, but, yeah, let's Matt Passmore. Basically, if you go to the trailer, he is the guy that actually put the chip in the computer that read the Jigsaw audio, and you saw a close-up of his face right there. If you want to put a picture of your screen on the video so people actually see who we're talking about. Matt Passmore, he's the guy that was in the forensic outfit. He's like in a coroner's outfit while he's discovering Josiah Black's body. That's the guy with the jigsaw puzzle on his cheek that you see in the trailer. He's the one. He doesn't get a single line of dialogue in this trailer. But he has, I think, two main shots in the film. There's one that you saw with him on the autopsy table, listen to the Jigsaw video on computer, and the other one we'll talk about in just a moment. But he has a place role where he works alongside our other character, Hannah Anderson, which we'll talk about towards the end of this video. And what he does, he's either listening to the video as well as investigating the trap sites that we see later on in the trailer with the people with the buckets on their heads. So he's seen with a close-up on the flashlight on there. And then I guess we'll mention this towards the last 10 seconds of the trailer. He is actually in the laser trap. So
he's
hopefully
also...
things will...
I'm sorry to interrupt. He's also, in the room where all the previous traps are. He's also next to the person who I think they're supposed to, when they say Jigsaw... he is also the guy looking at the person taking the photo and all that. If you kind of match up what we can see from that shot, if you brighten up the images and all that other stuff, he apparently is the same person looking on. So he seems like the main focus of the story, probably the Eric Matthews of the film.
Which is good. And we'll give him a chance. Like I say, I haven't seen much of his work, though, but the fact of the matter is that we see him, and like you said, there's actually more than two shots. I apologize for that. But the fact we see him a lot more in the background trailer, that he's going to play a major role. And then, unfortunately, down the line, we do see him in a saw trap. But when does he get in the trap? It looks like towards maybe the end of the film. So we can always speculate as to what's going on with him. But it looks like he is in the classic case of he's getting really close. And then just unfortunately, he got caught near the end of the film and got placed in the trap. So,
and that trap, that trap deserves a whole other video, let alone all the other traps that we've seen from this trailer. So, what are your thoughts on him as just the main focus? But personally, if you ask me, I feel like this guy is going to be our main driving force of this whole movie. He's going to be the person who's looking harder than anyone else. And it's weird to me, considering the fact that even though he gets so much screen time as compared to everyone else we're going to be talking about during this particular trailer, he's in all these different places. He's in all the major areas that they're looking up, but they give him no lines. Do you think that's an indication that he might not play the biggest role? Like he might be the Perez to somebody else's Strom, or the Carrie to someone else's Eric, or something else like that? Or do you feel like he will be the driving force?
It's kind of hard to say, but that's the beauty of trailers. It always keeps us guessing. So... But I wouldn't mind, say, giving this actor an opportunity. He is, an Australian actor. But, like I said, another Australian actor, so was Costas Mandylor. So, another Aussie actor. So, but we'll give him a shot, and I'm looking forward to see what he comes up with. And I'm more looking forward to seeing, how he plays off the other cop characters, as well as we have to look for see how he handles being in a saw trap. So, there's two things you can look forward to with this actor in this role. So, that's pretty much all I have to say about Matt Patterson. So best luck to him. And let's talk about our next main character, the gentleman by the name of Colin Keith Rennie, who those of you who may be familiar with the Battlestar Galactica series. He played a major villain on that show. And the fact that if you go on his Wikipedia page, it says that he's well known for playing villainous roles. So that's something we may need to think about in this film. But his character in this film is Halloran. If you take a picture of him, he's the main detective with the goatee strap, talking with Clay Bennett, which we'll mention in just a minute. He plays an interesting role where he kind of looks like the man in charge. Like, he's like the go-to guy. So he's like probably like one of the bosses. Like, Matt Passmore's character may be the guy we follow, but Halloran, who is this character, may be the guy in charge of the operation. Kind of like what Erickson was in Saw 5, when we followed Strong as the main character, but Erickson was the guy in charge, pulling the strings, as well, leading the investigation. So he may be the lead role, and we see a photo of him, and it's not a trailer. We see a photo of him and Clay Bennett on a rooftop, supposedly looking at balcony area views of maybe when John Kramer was taking pictures of his victims. So it could be an indicator of why they're doing on a rooftop. So that's something to think about in the film. But I'm more intrigued with this character because he's kind of like the wild card. Like, he's the one that says line in the trailer, "We're chasing the dead man." So he maybe the guy that may be calling the shots. Like, all right, we're going to go to the Saw 2 warehouse. Like, you saw a SWAT team, which it's good to see the SWAT team back, which we all know how Jalen Bousman was in the Saw film. We have a SWAT team. We got to have a SWAT team. It's got to take it seriously. We have a SWAT team here. Our villain will be more missing. He takes down an entire SWAT team. So hopefully they'll remember not to go upstairs in that warehouse again. Mm-hmm. If they go back to that warehouse Saw 2 like we saw in the trailer. Mm-hmm. So I remember you brought this up in a video before where you said they could be going to the Saw 2 warehouse, the SWAT team. So he may be leading the charge. We see him with the reverse bear trap in the background, staring at that. We see them looking at previous traps online. He's been dead for 10 years. So I think he's going to be the guy in charge, maybe calling the shots. But then again, you got to keep in mind, he's known for playing a villain. So could he be involved in the Jigsaw murders? Possibly. But it'd be interesting to see. What's your take on this actor playing Halloran?
It's interesting that you mentioned that. It's not something I had actually known going into this particular video, that he was known for playing a villain. But one of the things I feel like they might be kind of getting a little bit too close to the whole Hoffman, the guy in charge, the guy on the top of the investigation, kind of playing it down, playing the innocent victim or even the heroic savior of this particular situation being involved. Maybe that's a little too close, especially for a film that is trying to, at least from what we see from the marketing and what they have and have not confirmed yet, and what everyone in the fandom is basically calling for Costas Mandylor and Carriolis to come back in some way, shape, or form in this movie, is his character being at that upper echelon of cop hierarchy or whatever it is, being the person who is the one hiding in the shadows, the one that the synopsis kind of alludes to is in the investigation, that might be the successor or the copycat killer for the whole Jigsaw mythology. Is he too close to what Hoffman was, or is he even bigger and better in this in terms of his role in the police force and everything else like that?
I'm glad you brought that up, because there was another theory I had about him. Mm-hmm. We did talk about Matt Passmore before, possibly being the guy we follow, but it could be the thing where people got that idea in their head. Well, Hoffman was a bad guy last time. Now, from a booking standpoint, if I'm booking this film towards for a story progression, I wouldn't do the same thing twice. I wouldn't have another cop, like lead cop, be the Jigsaw killer again, because we've seen that for the past 4 movies, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. So basically, that could be a ruse. He could be like a guy where maybe they both suspect each other being involved. Like, maybe Matt Passmore thinks Halloran is involved in this Jigsaw thing, but then turns out he's not. He could be a good guy after all, and maybe too late for him. Maybe he ended up getting killed in one of those car crashes we see in the trailer. Like we saw in a trailer that's actually interesting to me. We see 2 car crashes. Well, technically 3 if you want to count the dumpster trap, but that's for another video. Mm-hmm. But we see a cop car explode to a bunch of water barrels, and we also see 2 cars hit head on. So maybe that it could involve the cops down the line. Maybe like they're in hot pursuit of one another, and then somehow they both get tripped up to a trap and the car explodes. But he could be along the lines where, for the casual viewer thinking, I don't like this guy. He seems too mean-spirited. He seems too on the nose. So maybe he could be there just to plant people into false sense of security. Maybe this guy's in it, but actuality, he's probably not. So that's my theory with this character.
I can definitely see how that actually works out. I would actually believe that that would be something they would do, and something that could play out in a way that, yeah, like I could see that this guy seems really shady, but in reality he is someone who potentially is, I guess, a good guy. And even like you said before, the way that Saul has a history of introducing a multitude of people and then kind of relying on those people in future sequels. If we suspect this guy is a bad guy, he might be an interesting person to follow as a lead character in, the next film or something. If they do another film or a ninth film in the series or something like that, it would be pretty interesting. I don't necessarily see from the trailer, even though he's saying that we're chasing a dead man and stuff, and he's the non-believer of the group, which, as a general moviegoer, even not someone who is, I guess, pointed as me or someone like you, either with this series or in mystery movies in general, thrillers in general, that's the type of mentality that you're sitting there going, maybe that's the person I need to be watching. But I know they're smarter than that, and I'm pretty sure you're right here, where he's going to be someone who the audience itself needs to be thinking twice about. But at the same time, I think it's all just a red herring, and all the shadiness about him, it could be easily explained. He's just kind of an old cop who feels like they're thinking too hard. Jigsaw's not alive. This is just a copycat killer, and yada yada yada. All your thinking and theorizing and stuff is making me mad, and I don't necessarily know how to say it, but that's exactly what we're supposed to think. Is he's actually the copycat when really he's just the good guy. So he feels like an antagonizing force throughout the whole movie, but then it kind of comes in, like you're saying, and he is the good guy, and we're thrown for a loop when the real bad guy shows themselves.
Right, he could be a red herring. So interesting to see how this guy plays a part. Like, he's the one that seems like the most experienced out of the four actors in these films. So he could probably carry most of the weight for all the other actors in the film. So since he's more seasoned, but it'd be interesting to see how this guy turns out. Now, let's talk about who we believe is his partner, Detective Keith, played by Clay Bennett. And he is also a Toronto Canadian actor. And let me state this out for the record. If anybody that wants to be in a Saw film, my advice, move to Toronto, Canada. Because if you want to be in a Saw film, that's where they do the locations, in the Toronto, Canada. Stephanie Gorin used to be the casting director up in that way for Twisted Pictures and Lionsgate up in Toronto, Canada. So if anybody wants to be in a Saw film, my advice is go to Toronto, Canada, and apply your hearts out in those agencies right there, and then possibly get involved down the stretch. So, but yeah, let's talk about Clay Bennett. He is the looks like Halloran's partner. He's the one in the trailer that we see, talking to the coroner. Like, that's impossible. When they talk about Jigsaw's blood being underneath somebody's fingernails. And he also said the line while he was in the warehouse with Halloran, saying it may be a copycat. So what I can gather, and based on the impression I got in the trailer, he's one of those detectives where he could be like Rigg in a way, where he's like, maybe this is like all BS. Like, this is like too much for me. Like, this has got to be copycat. This guy's been dead. There's no way it's this guy. Or he's one of those guys. Or he could take the approach of what Rogers was in Saw 3D, where he's also like the second man, like, following orders and stuff like that from Halloran. Because it looks like Halloran's the guy in charge, and Keith is the side partner, trying to help steer the narrative along. Like, you see the photo with them two on the rooftop. He's the one pointing the gun. Halloran's the one like pointing orders, telling people what's going on, or look at that, or talking to somebody. So he seems to be like the tag along kind of guy. So I don't suspect him to be involved with the Jigsaw killings. I think he's more along the lines where he's just like a guy on the side, and maybe he's not. Hopefully he has a little bit more room and give him more room to work. So it's always good to see actors, like sink their teeth into new roles and break out performances. So that's kind of the impression I got with him in those trailers. What was your impression that you got in the trailers from him?
I mean, the only thing I really thought and really kind of took from him, besides, the still shots that you've been kind of referencing with them on the rooftop, and obviously they do seem like partners with him and Colin Keith Rennie. Like, I feel like that is something like maybe they're going to be playing off of each other. Maybe he is going to be like the Rig character where he kind of gets a little too involved. The main shot is him looking at the jigsaw pieces, right? And I don't necessarily know what I don't necessarily know how I take that. When I look at this and when I look at everyone, he, to me, at least from the trailer that we've gotten and all the stills and everything that we've gotten, doesn't seem like someone who could be involved in this. And it's interesting. It's interesting to me because wouldn't that be someone who should be involved? Like, like he doesn't necessarily seem like he's the most daunting presence because they didn't necessarily give him a lot of lines. They didn't give him a lot of screen time as compared to, people who got better lines and better screen time in the trailer. He seems like someone who's going to be like a side character. And like you said, he kind of reminds you of Officer Rig and how that guy, someone that they would more willingly, like I said earlier, would push off for this film, but maybe bring back in a bigger way the next film.
Yeah, it could be good for him too. If you it's like, I may show up with a few lines right here. Well, hey, I'll be the guy they'll take over in the next film.
Yeah, and I would actually really appreciate them doing that, and I'm really hoping the fact that they've introduced so many characters, especially police officers, in this film, that they're setting up for if they do another film, one of these characters is going to take over as the main person. Considering the fact that we already talked about Matt Passmore and how you already mentioned that, for the most part, from what we see in the trailer, he does seem to be ending up in some kind of a trap, whether it's in the end of the film or whatnot. So, it does seem like, the door is going to be open for someone to take over. And the whole Officer Rig character from Saw 4 taking over after he was introduced in Saw 2, I think was one of the more unique things that they ever did in the whole franchise. I really hope that continues. So if any of these people take over in the next film, I hope that actually happens, and I would really like it for him to be Clay Bennett.
All right. Yeah, definitely. So we hope that these guys have some form of camaraderie too. So it'd be a good discussion. Like, say, maybe these 4 cops characters, like maybe they all can just bond with each other, and then kind of like they did with the Saw 2 with the whole Eric, Rig, and all them having bond moments with each other as Carrie as well. Them all bonding over each other and having friendship. You see a friendship with all those characters involved, and maybe we can get something like that in the film too if they are going to keep these guys around for the sequel.
Yes.
So, all right, we ready to talk about Hannah Anderson?
Oh yeah.
So, we got a lot to say about Hannah Anderson. So, all right. So, for those who don't know, Hannah Anderson, she is the character who's also in the coroner's office on the table examining the body. She's the one that says it's not Jigsaw. It can't be. And she also has a couple background shots with Matt Passmore's character in the trailer. And she also has the one line in the trailer near the end where she says it's Jigsaw. So she looks to be a major player in this film. She looks to me probably starts off like a forensic analyst. Like you see her and Matt Passmore both in the coroner's office. They're all dressed up doing autopsy. And then we also see him in the trailer investigating the bucket trap in the barn area after the traps in the game had been taking place. So she looks to be in the investigation as well as a whole. And we have a major theory about her. Basically, you and we had a discussion. So I'll go ahead and I'll break down what my theory is about Hannah Anderson. First of all, I think she's the one that's involved in the Jigsaw investigation and murders. And maybe as an apprentice or involved in some way. And here's why I think it's her. All right, I have 3 main reasons. Reason number 1, we go back to the marketing campaign in July of this year. Who were the 2 actresses listed in the very first building of this film? Even before
Hannah Anderson and Laura Vandervoort.
Yes. Now, everybody knew Laura Vandervoort from Smallville, and she's a big name. Hannah Anderson, not so much. She's in a few TV shows. If you actually want to check out a TV series, look at TV series Shoot the Messenger. It's like an 8-episode series that's plays in Canada. She co-stars along with Lyric Bent from Saw 4. So if you're interested in that, go check that series out. The reason why I bring that up, she's a top billing actress, and we don't know much about her. So you're thinking, why would we market her over before we mention Tobin Bell's back? So that should be like a tip for you right there. Maybe she's got like a bigger role, because why would Lionsgate promote her this early if we don't know her that well? And she's a fine actress too, so I give her props, and I'm happy that she got this role. But we don't know much about her and she's the one that we got top billing over the other three actors we mentioned, as well as Tobin Bell. Before Tobin Bell was confirmed to be in this film. Mm-hmm. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, if you're a Saw fan out there, we already discussed this before. I know you mentioned this in past videos where John Kramer's dead. All right, there is no way they would bring back John Kramer. Let's get that out of the way first of all. John Kramer is dead. He is not coming back. If they bring him back in this film, either has to be in flashbacks, and there can't be no evil twin or nothing like that. John Kramer is dead. So, but going back to that theory, we see her as in a forensic analysis. Now, one line in the trailer that had me intrigued, it said, "The blood underneath the fingernails of our victims is John Kramer's," meaning that Jigsaw's blood is being involved in these current murders. Think to yourself, who would have access to John Kramer's blood? And maybe the people involved would be in the coroner's office, because people had the autopsy, they would be able to store his blood. And so maybe people involved in the coroner's office and lab results are able to get access to Jigsaw's blood and plant it. And what easier way to plant it than being the coroner yourself, hiding pieces of those evidence right there on the people. So that's another theory I have for her. And number three, the reason why I think she could be involved. We see in the trailer how she is fascinated by his works, and we see her and Matt Passmore's character in the same trap area as the previous victims we saw in the trailer. We see Matt Passmore in the trap, but we don't see her in the trap. And if you notice, if you pause real slowly at the Pighead's version of the film, we see Pighead who looks like he's going to abduct somebody. That could be towards the end of the film. And it kind of looked like a female's body. Like, it didn't look like a man dressed in a costume. It looked like a female dressing up in a pig head costume. So, my number one theory out there, I think it's Hannah Anderson as your Jigsaw accomplice. So, what do you think about that theory right there?
I completely agree with it. I don't want to get my hopes up. I really don't want to get my hopes up that it's Hannah Anderson. But like you said, they gave her top billing. They introduced her before they introduced anyone else, along with Laura Vandervoort, who at the time made a whole lot of sense and really brought about like a lot of fan speculation. But once you really see that she is the person within the trap itself, then you go, well, okay, I understand. Like, maybe she doesn't have anything to do with it. Maybe so. You don't know. You don't necessarily know how this is going to play out. Personally, I really like the idea of Hannah Anderson. She, to be fair, outside of, like you and I, and probably some people actually watching this video, but people who didn't know about this movie was even coming out until that trailer dropped, the whole she got top billing and stuff, it's a Google search away, but they're not going to look at that. They're not going to pay attention to dates. It didn't necessarily matter back then. It only mattered to the fans, which causes all this speculation from us. I personally like the idea of them taking the idea of the next Jigsaw, Apprentice, or Copycat Killer, or somebody being a strong female character with this type of profession. I mean, obviously, as a coroner, she probably has some medical knowledge, some medical procedures. She can do this stuff. It also brings into the fact that they seemingly have that tranquilizer trap or whatever it is with the needles. If she has some kind of hand in any of this being played out and everything, everything about her being the person who kind of ushers in the new legacy of Jigsaw, the copycat, the whatever it ends up actually being, and being even the main focus of any potential sequel, I'm all for. I haven't necessarily seen her act or anything, but considering her social media presence, and she does seem like she's really game for this. She seems like she's very excited just to be in this film in particular. I think that they probably, like almost everyone here, brought their A game. I'm hoping, like, not just the creative forces, but everyone behind the scenes and everyone who is, business-wise or something. One of the things I've talked about before on my channel is when it comes to Jigsaw, when it comes to Saw, I don't think that Lionsgate or Twisted Pictures maybe, but Lionsgate in particular, didn't necessarily need to make this movie. Lionsgate started off as kind of a horror-centric, slasher type of, low budget horror movie franchise filmmaking studio. And really, like Freddy is to New Line, Jigsaw is to Lionsgate. Lionsgate is the house that Jigsaw built. And once the original series ended back in 2010, they really hit big with the Hunger Games and the YA stuff, and now they're trying other things. It is a legitimately big studio once they bought Summit Entertainment and everything. They did not need to do this movie if they didn't really feel like they had a good idea for it. Obviously, there's going to be money in doing a new Jigsaw movie regardless, but at the same time, it really is. I think they had the best idea for going forward, and everything that you just said about Hannah Anderson potentially, all of your theories there, her potentially being the person in the pig mask, her having access to the DNA, her being kind of top billed at the very beginning of this before anything else was basically confirmed or denied at that point, all points to her being the future face of this franchise. And I have to admit, if that's true, I think I'm 100,000% on board, and I'm very, very excited.
Right, and we could be both wrong. So that's the beauty thing of speculation. But more thing I figured too, I would think maybe this copycat killer would be like a total fanboy or fangirl of John Kramer's work and his philosophy. And because Hannah Anderson is a good actress, if you've seen that trailer, the whole purpose out here, the way she says a line, it's Jigsaw. It can be taken out of context, and that's what a good actress can do. If you can say a line, but you can have your audience take that in more interpretive ways, that's a good actress right there that can make a thing like happen. Where she says it's Jigsaw, it could be a way where she's either frightened or she's just fascinated and memorized by what she's seen. And I think that's one of those lines where maybe that's what this new copycat killer is. Maybe it's just like total fanboy or total like fascinated by Jigsaw's work and stuff like that. Maybe the years, like she sees people coming in, Jigsaw victims, she's like fascinated, and then she decides maybe she could pick up on that. So I'm in all theory with her, but like I said, or she could be an extra, and then she could be in trap as well, and maybe the writers and the producers it's like, oh, y'all think it's her? Well, we got next trailer we're gonna show her in a trap, and then we'll both look at each other and be like, gosh darn it.
Well, to be fair, it's not like Amanda was never in a trap, so just saying, like, they could easily throw us off. I mean, Matt Pat,
Matt Pat.
Yeah, like you have all these, like Matt Passmore, like he is in a trap, so like we're writing him off, but we're writing him off for better reasons, just that he's actually in a trap, and everyone else here, if we're looking at anyone. But can I say, the thing is, it looks like she's a coroner, like. And she obviously has some interaction with the police. The thing that a lot of people have pointed out, and I have to admit to one way or another that the synopsis that they gave us back in the day, like, a couple months back, oh, is it someone in the police force? It was like, that to me was always a red herring from the very beginning. It's like they want you to think that because they want to put everyone off. A lot of people are saying, oh, they gave away the movie, it's going to be someone in the police force. It's like, but you realize, like, the original series dealt really heavily from basically the fourth film onward with someone in the police force kind of manipulating everyone as they went. Hoffman's whole character arc was manipulation to the 10th degree. So I really feel like all that was just kind of fluff. You're not necessarily going to see someone in the police force. So I'm not necessarily sure whether or not Hannah Anderson's character works in that regard, because she's not in the police force, but she does have a close enough relationship to the police force that she's too obvious, or the whole police force thing is just kind of a red herring, and it's not actually someone who's in the police force at all or interacts with them at all.
Right. Anyway, that's all the information I have on our cop characters. We more information will post. I'd be happy to do another video if we see another trailer, or we can do like a reaction once the film comes out. But I will go ahead and I'll give you, the listeners right here, I'll give you my 3 theories as to what I think is going to happen in this film, and I'll give them to you real quickly. Yeah. I'll just let you react to each one. The first one, the most unlikely one, which I think would be pretty cool. We all know the bucket trap, the 5th guy on the floor. They could have a callback to Saw 1, have him be the 5th guy on the floor, be the one behind it. It wouldn't be awesome, but I think a character would be awesome just for the sake of being fun. Since this is a Spielberg's brothers film, I would love it to be Ethan Hawke.
I would love it to be Ethan Hawke, dude.
I was like, that would be awesome if they got Ethan Hawke to be the next Jigsaw. That would be awesome.
If
I was like, sold.
if it is Ethan Hawke, I'm going to direct everyone. I did a video about whether it's not like whether or not he'd be in the film or not,
Yeah.
like months ago. Just because he was in Daybreakers and he was in Predestination, 2 amazing films if you haven't seen them. So yeah, if it's Ethan Hawke,
I would just go heaven over heels. That's the more unlikely category, but that would just be awesome, just for the sake of being awesome.
yeah,
Kind of like the whole Matt Damon reveal in Interstellars. So
exactly.
Yes. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen Interstellar. So, but
It's so old now. Come on, guys.
oh yeah, so it's a Nolan film. It's theory number 2, and this is more plausible. We still have the Han Anderson theory, which we just mentioned before, but she could be not working alone. There could be a second person involved. You know, there could be multiple people. And the third theory I have is this. We stick with the cult theory because if you look at all the promotional material they've been doing on the Jigsaw Saves website, you see different people taking up the mantle and telling their stories, like how I'm saved and stuff like that. And I know you mentioned this in a video before about possibly being a cult. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be a cult right there. But one thing that had my fascination is we see in the trailers that the whole game being taken place with Laura Vandervault, Brittany Allen, Paul Bernstein, Mandela Van Peebles, all those 4 actors, Mitch, Ryan, Carly, and Anna, as their characters' names are. You see them in the traps. What if we do see John Kramer, and that's another reason why Tobin Bell's in this film. He is there watching this game going on, and that could confuse everybody. Be like, how is he alive? How is he alive? And we see him. We see his face. We see him interacting with these people in traps. What if they took a page out of Saw 4's book? What if the game is being played in the past while Jigsaw was still alive? And then the police and the cops discover the barn. Maybe the barn could be Jigsaw's original home and stuff like that. Maybe they traced it back to Jigsaw's original home. That's where the trap was played, and Jigsaw's old barn where he grew up or something like that. But what if the whole trap scenario takes place in the past, and then when the cops find it, it takes place in the present, and maybe the person who won the game, it could be Laura Vandervault, it could be any of the actors who survived, maybe Laura Vandervault just because she's a big name recognition. What if she actually, it took place in the past, and she later joins the Jigsaw cult regime? Because we saw, we talked about in the past, Brad and Ryan being involved in the Jigsaw commentary, the 2 people helping Dr. Gordon. And we know Saw 3D was originally ending, so supposed to have, the Jigsaw survivors being involved in some way, saying he helped me, he helped me, he helped me. They all being involved. So what if, like, the victim's Laura Vandervault survives the game, and then later on is revealed at the end that she is involved along with those other members of the Jigsaw cult. And that's how Tobin Bell's in the film, just to throw us off. And the twist being that game takes place in the past. Now, that's another theory, but I'm still going to stick with my Hannah Anderson theory as being the number one thing that happens. But the reason why I moved that down to second is because we kind of already seen that twist in Saw 4.
Yeah.
So, but what were your thoughts on those theories real quick? So.
Man, I gotta admit, like, I would fan the hell out. Like, I would freak out in the theater and scream. Like, if it's Ethan Hawke, just having Ethan Hawke in this film would be amazing for me. Just considering
the photo, you saw a photo of the $5. It says 5th person not mentioned for the sake of the plot. Literally, it said that.
Yeah, like
it would kill the actor. So I was like, maybe. So.
Exactly. It's like, geez, like, the thing is like, oh man, like, that would be so cool. I like the idea. I have to admit, I've seen a lot of different theories and speculations when it comes to how John is in the particular movie. I mean, we've seen some really stupid ones, especially, and I have to admit this, I know a lot of people listen to this probably have the same opinions. We've seen some really stupid ones when it comes to people who aren't fans of this series. The people who are like, yeah, Saul's just like that, like an everyday horror franchise that will never die, so he's coming back to life or something like that. It's like, no, you're dumb. Like, you obviously don't watch these movies or understand what's going on there. So no, he's not coming back to life. Obviously, flashbacks being as relevant as they are in this series, you could easily have him come back with flashbacks. There's a lot of time, as I've speculated before, that there's a lot of time in between Cecil and Seth Baxter that needs to be filled in and give us, like, all of Jigsaw's patterns and his method and the way he puts up these games, creating Billy the Puppet, the one that we know from the games, not just the one that he showed Jill in Saw 4. There's just so much that needs to be explained that they could possibly put this whole barn trap, like you're saying, in that time period. I like the idea. I like the idea of John actually being shown to be the one watching the traps. Based on what we see from the trailer, though, I just don't get that impression that it's somebody like John is actually the person watching this particular trap. It seems more like a flashback type of thing. The idea to me is that if John were to be the one who kind of came in, and when the police are investigating, going to the Saw 2 warehouse, going to this place or that place or something, it'd be interesting to see them looking onto the scene and seeing Jigsaw there. If they know his legacy, if they know everything about him, and they're actually watching him put together the traps and everything that are going on right now, that would be my guess. But I really like your guess as well.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and we'll conclude with this. Going back to our original topic with the 4 cops, that's the beauty of what this franchise is. We can have like 2 fans talking for over 30 minutes over a 2-minute trailer and just about the cops, which so a normal moviegoer would be like, why would anybody like put this much thought, emphasis into like characters that only get like maybe 10 seconds of screen time in an entire trailer? Mm-hmm. But that's the beauty of this franchise right now. It has its loyal fan base. And I grew up, like, say, I started watching this film when I was 16 years old on a school bus with the school principal sitting literally right behind me. It's my first experience with the Saw franchise. And I was hooked then. I followed it through there. I joined all those websites. I joined House of Jigsaw. I joined Official Saw. And the fact of the matter is, like, there is that fan base. And it's like any TV series. People have their Battlestar Galactica. People have their Star Wars. People have their Game of Thrones or whichever it is going on right now. But that's the beauty of a franchise that leaves an impact. If your franchise can leave an impact on 2 people talking, making a video on YouTube that's going over like 30 minutes long, just about cop characters and protagonists, then you've done something right. You've done something right. So I look forward to seeing how the protagonists go. I look forward to see how these cops handle Jigsaw. They may all die. They may all live. But only one way to find out is you got to go watch the movie on October 27th, and we will both be there.
I know I will, man. But anyway, guys, thanks for listening. Jacob, thank you so much for coming on and just kind of sharing your opinions. Guys, if this is any indication, I'm not an anomaly. There are so many people out there who really love this franchise, just as he just said. So please make sure, like I said at the beginning of the video, please make sure to go down to the description section below, hit that link, and go check him out. Go check out his movie reviews, and just, he'll talk about Jigsaw Saw with you. I have been looking so hard to find someone who loves this franchise just as much as I have and can come in onto these videos and just talk about it with
we're out there. We're out there. And that's one thing I'm hoping Lionsgate and them fix too. Maybe put the forums page back so we actually all can post about our blogs and find and talk with each other again.
Exactly. I mean, I miss those days. But like I said at the beginning of the video, please make sure to go down to the comment section below, share your thoughts and opinions about what we were talking about here, or even just like awesome House of Jigsaw memories that you guys have and everything about that. Please make sure to go check out Jacob, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe onto this channel. Share it out to all your friends, and we're going to catch you on the next video. It's been real.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Mm-hmm.